Hey everybody, we are live tonight. I am so excited. Well, I mean, actually, really excited because I'm actually have someone in front of me that I've never met before. How exciting is that? And of course, I've heard of him. I mean, who hasn't heard of Dave Hubbard? I mean, if you're watching any boogie board or any bodyboard, anything, you're going to know that Dave Hubbard just won Maldives. Hello, he won the pro and the drop knee. I mean, this is a big feat. And I read somewhere that he had been dreaming about that for a long time. How would that be to win both? What would that feel like? And guess what, everybody? He got to feel it. So we're going to talk to him tonight and find out exactly how he felt. It must have been amazing. So I am so excited to bring in uh, Dave Hubbard himself, all the way from Kauai. Here he is. How you doing?
So great. So
Oh,
great.
good, good, good. Oh,
Great
this
to
is
be
such an
here.
exciting night. It really is an exciting night for me because, well, first of all, it's the first time I've seen you face to face, so it's going to be wonderful getting to know you a little bit. And for those of you that have never watched Boogie History, I'm like getting all choked up. Um, we're out over on YouTube, and I try to interview, important people in the sport, and I also interview, the OGs and people that first started out. So it's all about the history. Now, Dave, you just made history, and I had read somewhere where you had dreamt about that. Was the dream exactly how it felt, or better?
Well, I think I use the term dreamed of as far as like um desiring instead of actually having an actual picturesque dream.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it was surreal the moment itself there in the Maldives
Mm.
when I accomplished it, because it was really two huge goals of mine in my career. Um and the first one was to win a men's world tour event,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and I hadn't ever won on the championship tour level, like the highest level, winning a men's world tour event.
Mm-hmm.
And the other was winning both categories at the same event, which I would need a men's result to do it. And so this this happened,
It
and
happened.
it was amazing for sure.
Well, I was so excited to just find out a little bit about you before we got started. One is you live on my favorite island, Kauai, where I met Tom Mori, and that was where the boogie board started.
Yep.
A little bit about let's go back and how did you end up on Kauai?
So my parents met in Honolulu. My father was born on Oahu, and my mom came over to the University of Hawaii to study. And they met at the swimming pool, and yeah, from there out, my parents have their love story of.
I hope we
It.
didn't get a disconnection. There we go.
Oh, so they had lived on Maui for a little bit, and then my dad got a position at a plantation on Kauai. They came
Mm,
over and they haven't left, and my dad's and my mom are perfectly content here.
mm.
One of my brothers, Mike, and his family live on this island, as well as myself and Jeff. He was actually born on Oahu, and he's still residing on Oahu.
Oh, that's very interesting. I'm sure a lot of people, always wondered why you were on Kauai. That's really neat. And Jeff's your older brother, is that right?
Yep, and he's the.
And you both were you both instrumental in coming up with a bodyboard, that or a boogie board that worked for both of you, or did you have people help?
We definitely had people help, but when it came to hub boards and starting our own brand, yeah, there was a few very instrumental people in kind of planting those seeds in our mind earlier in our career, that one day potentially we could operate and run a company and build bodyboards and sell them under our name. and
Aha.
and when we finally got to the point in our careers where that was the next logical step, it was, it was a bit scary,
Mhm.
to kind of step out on your own. uh, You know, we as a professional bodyboarder, if you get to a certain level, checks come in the mail, and that's like mind-blowingly
Yeah,
cool. You ride a boogie board during the day, and sometimes you open your mailbox and there's money there
yeah.
for
That's a
doing
dream.
for doing
Yeah.
what you have to do. It's an absolute dream, Patty.
Yeah,
And
making money
so
while you sleep is like what Warren Buffett says is what we're all supposed to be doing. So you're living the dream. That's awesome. I just want to step in real quickly and say if anyone's watching right now live, which I see we have some people, you want to type in a question for David, I'm sure he would be glad to answer it. So just type over there in a live Facebook chat and put a comment in. Now, we don't see your name. So if you wouldn't mind putting your name with the question, that would really help us a lot. All right. So, and also this will be archived on YouTube. So if you can't watch it tonight, you can always go. I'll put the link in tomorrow. And you can watch it. So anyway, let's continue on here. So, so you're over on Kauai. You're living the life. You're traveling the world. What what was it that you and Jeff and your family why you didn't like, or are you into surfing? I mean, what was it about boogie boarding or bodyboarding that changed everything for you?
yeah, it's a good question. My dad loved to take us down to the beach to
Hmm.
get exercise, but to entertain his kids. So we were really young. We would go down to Kalapaki.
Hmm.
That's the bay and the beach that I grew up at. And
Hmm.
he would tie a rope around his waist and drag us along the shoreline, and we'd just skim along on a boogie board. And it was
Oh, wow.
just the perfect vehicle to introduce us to the water, you know? And right there at Kalapaki, really close to the sand, there's like a small little wedge. If you're very
Mhm.
short, you can kind of ride along those waves.
Oh,
So
wow. Uh-huh.
so it's really cool for small kids who, might not be swimming the best. You don't have to go far out. It's sand bottom, and you're just getting to know the ocean and the water. And so my dad just thought these things would be the best craft to do that. And we did actually
Mm.
progress onto
Yeah.
surfboards. My brother Mike, he is a short boarder, and I followed him for a little while and into short boarding
Oh, okay.
when I was really young, and then came back to bodyboarding probably around 9 or 10,
Hmm.
after a couple years of surfing because it was just more fun. So that's
Oh,
really
nice.
what
Hmm.
drew me and my brother Jeff to bodyboarding. Was it was just a more fun for us personally, and we just enjoyed it more. So that's
Well,
where we just continued.
that you're a someone that could go out and preach the gospel of boogie boarding. Then it sounds like to me. And I saw you were doing that in Maldives at one of those classes too. That was
Yeah.
pretty awesome. Yeah, that's would have been really awesome. Um, what what about now in the future family? Are there any up and coming kids or grandkids or nieces and nephews that are getting on a board over there?
Well, we've got Jeff's daughter, Jackie, my niece.
Mm-hmm.
She seems to love bodyboarding, and she's
Mm.
5 now, I think. My brother Mike has some kids, and they like to longboard and surf and bodyboard, and they kind of do it all. They're just still
Mm.
in that phase of wanting to go out and be a part of the water, and I think that's the best thing when you're young and you're very adaptable, and
Yeah.
you're finding your friend groups, you're finding what's interesting to you, and you can have an open kind of mind about riding waves. I think that's a
Yeah.
very healthy place. And even though, Jeff and I have a brand, we're not shoving bodyboarding down their throats.
Mm-mm.
If they
Yeah.
want to ride a bodyboard, we help to set them up. And if they want to go surf, maybe we'll join them doing that too. It's
That's
totally
neat.
cool.
That is really, really neat. Well, I wanted when I interviewed Ian Campbell, he was telling me about his training. It was vigorous training. I was like, oh, so I was curious as to, I know you told me that you were 40, but what kind of training do you have to do to be able to pull off those kind of maneuvers in Maldives and all the different places you go to?
I spend quite a bit of time most mornings just doing kind of postural um,
Oh, okay.
exercises that are maybe not so strenuous or muscle building, but they're aligning my body. They're kind of training proper movement, and sometimes they're not just proactive. Sometimes they're reactive. If I'm going through either an injury or kind of a sticky joint or something, I'm doing things in the morning to get my body moving,
Mhm.
correctly, and from there I'll throw in more exercise throughout the week. Typically, it's just going to be more bodyboarding, but sometimes it's riding a bike or swimming or a home workout with my own body weight, other things. But I don't put hours per day into
Uh-huh.
training. But I do, even if I wasn't a pro bodyboarder, I would still take that time in the morning to kind of check in with my body and to begin movement in a healthy way.
Oh, that's awesome. It's I know, I lived with Guillermo for 2 or 3 years, and that's one of the part of the stuff we laughed about was, our training. Because at the time I was like a competitive runner. So I would, always try to get him out on my runs, and then we would go to the gym together, and so I know how vigorous it is to work, towards that kind of athleticism. I mean, it's amazing. Um, what another question I wanted to ask you too was, I know that a lot of people always, particularly people that are watching your career and everything, want to know, like, what are you doing these days? Like, you went to Maldives, but is there anything else that you're out there, training for, or trying to be in type thing?
Yeah, I'm, currently in the position where I'm able-bodied. I have the energy, the financial means, and the support of my wife to go out and compete. And
Hmm.
so I love to participate in events that I'm invited to or that work out with my schedule.
Hmm.
And I'm helping with the business of Hubboards, the brand, but also just earlier today, I was at school at the school I graduated from, and I was talking to kids
Oh, nice.
about breadfruit. Breadfruit's another passion of mine.
Oh.
Here in the Pacific, it's a super popular food source, and the organization I volunteer with, wants to take breadfruit and help to feed people around the world through this amazing plant. And
Oh,
so
that sounds awesome.
that's something I do. I do help out in some youth groups at a couple of the churches around my town.
Hmm.
So I try to help out with the next generation in different ways. And of course, you'll probably bring it up later, but we run some events. My brother and Chris Burkhardt and
Oh
myself
yeah, we were gonna segue into that,
and
for sure.
a team of other people, and that's another way that I spend my time to try to give back and put in and invest in the next generation and provide opportunities there because I think uh, we mentioned it before starting the recording, but yeah, the next generation is the future, and we definitely need to put our time and energy into helping them create our future. Really,
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, let's just take a minute here. Someone has asked a question. Let's just put it up here. Patty and Dave. This is Dave C in San Diego. Oh, hi. Where can we find some instructional vids where you teach how to learn performing air moves on a bodyboard? Great question. Thank you, Dave.
good question, and I
Mhm.
think I've been getting a lot of I don't right now I don't have any instructional videos up. I know Ian Campbell, Amari
Mhm.
Laverne, a number of professional riders have built out series where they do instructionals. Maybe even a pay subscription model. But I've been getting approached quite a bit, whether
Have you?
it's
That
on
might be your that money that can come in while you're sleeping.
or just offered for free on hub boards.
Okay.
I'm not sure what we'll do, but I've been definitely been getting approached. A lot of people are asking about whether
Yeah.
it's drop knee or different maneuvers. And
Yeah.
Dave, this great question, just
Yeah, it
air moves
is.
in general. Um, so they're not out there yet, but
He just buffered a little bit, so we'll bear with him for a second. Um, Sometimes, especially on a Friday afternoon, because computers go wonky because everybody jumps on after work, you know. But anyway, he's back. Great question, and yeah, there are a lot out there. Ian and Jay Reel does some, but
Yeah.
yeah, just go to YouTube and there's some stuff out there. And I'm glad you mentioned that because that was my next question. Was the and thank you, Dave, for asking that question. Was the Boogie Classic? You know, I've always liked the sound of that because it was Boogie, you know, and me and Boogie. I started with Boogie, Western Boogie up there. The little logo in the corner there is the first competition circuit, and we called it. It was kind of a Western Surfing Association, Western Boogie Association, you know, but it was Boogie. And so when I saw you guys doing the Boogie stuff over on Kauai, and you know, Chris Burkhart and I is he and I have spent time together, and he's come to California, and I have spent time with him. So working with him must be amazing.
It is, yeah. The Garden Island Boogie Board Classic. It's a long
Oh,
title for the event that we've held
uh-huh.
4 or 5 years now. I think we just did our fourth actually. So it was actually kind of that event kind of started and is still kind of the keystone of a nonprofit that they actually
Mhm.
started up to kind of get behind that event, but also a platform to run other events from.
Oh,
So
okay.
since starting this Garden Island Boogie Board Classic, we've run coaching clinics,
Nice.
free Grom events, you know, for
Mhm.
whether it's 14 and under or
Mhm.
12 and under, different age ranges on different islands. Uh,
Nice.
and so we've started to do different things. Actually, in July, we ran a Sandy Junior Pro event, the first Junior Pro
Wow.
event in the state,
What
and
is a junior? How old is a junior?
under 18 and under.
18 under. So you could be 9 and be a ripper and win that one?
Yeah,
Or no, you could, okay. Because I
yeah,
always think of Groms as like 7 to 12-ish,
sure, yeah,
and then juniors like 13 to 18. So that's cool. But a Grom could go into that one.
yeah. And
Did any Groms
so
show up?
yeah, we had some younger kids, but probably 11, I would say,
Wow.
would have been kind of the youngest. We had a pretty sure a 12-year-old make several heats and finish with a really good placing
Nice.
overall. Yeah.
Nice, nice. And so that's long standing. It's been quite a few years you guys been doing that. And I remember seeing a video of one of them, and boy, the vibe was just to be over on Kauai again, just like I want to be there. And I saw Chris Burkhart walking around and everything. That was great.
Yeah.
Um, so you're training now. Let me ask you a question here about drop knee because in my experience as being a sports promoter, I have had very long discussions about prone and actually some interesting discussions about prone versus drop knee. And so generally, like you look at, let's say Guillermo, he's a prone rider. Mike Stewart's prone rider, but he'll get up on his knees and he rips pretty good on his knees. But now, what is your what is the deal with you? I mean, you're both and you rip it both. So, do you like one better than the other, or is it just the conditions?
Um, it's the conditions for sure, and that's what, back to why bodyboarding is so fun, why I love boogie boarding. It's because there's no rules. I mean, unless you're in a specific category and you need to assume a certain stance in a competition setting. But
Right.
if we're just free
Hmm.
surfing, nobody's saying I have to do anything. I can
Hmm.
choose what I want to do, and sometimes I make that decision when I'm catching the wave
Hmm.
and I get up, drop me, or even stand up, or stay on my
Mm.
belly, or flip on my back, or whatever
Hmm.
these other stances that I love to get into, just because that's what's so cool about the boogie board.
Yeah.
Other vehicles have a rule: you need to stand on your feet, or you
Yeah.
need to get into this position, and you can only ride it this way. But
Yeah. That's
bodyboarding
awesome.
is so inclusive, and
Yeah.
that's really why that's such a part of my style of riding, that I love to drop knee, I love to prone, I love to stand up, I love to do all these things because to me that's what bodyboarding is.
Uh huh. Well, that's perfect answer. And, if Tom was alive, he would have kissed you on that answer because that's exactly he didn't, there was joy. Enjoy was the word. Just enjoy, you know, no matter what you do, just enjoy. So we have a comment here. Yo, Dave-O, yeah, Ripper. Didn't say who it was from, but I thought I'd give you a
Cool.
little laugh there. So you don't really care if you don't really prefer one or the other, then you just like them both.
I like them both, and yeah, it depends on the wave conditions, like you said, and how I'm
Hmm.
feeling. And
Well, I'm gonna bring up some just random footage of Maldives while we're talking, and then maybe you can explain it. I don't even know if you're going to even be in it. I just went over to Maldives Pro highlights. We'll bring some up,
sure.
and we can see what you just came out of. But before we do, was there anything before that you had won or did good in before Maldives that got you kind of amped to go into Maldives?
Well, the Garden Island Boogie Board Classic was the weekend before, and I won the drop knee for the first time for
Okay.
myself at our event. I hadn't
Hmm.
won the drop knee division at our event, so I won on Sunday afternoon, and then Monday morning, I'm getting on a flight, flying over to the Maldives.
Wow. Okay. So you're you're hot off the wind. Yeah.
Yeah,
I was wondering about how if had been something that triggered all this adrenaline to win two different divisions. That's unheard. Have you ever heard of anybody else doing that? I haven't.
it's happened a few times,
Has
but
it?
rarely on a big scale like that.
Yeah.
We'll
Yeah.
have certain results at regional events where people will sweep, but
Mm-hmm.
the only other time I've seen it like on the world stage was Sammy Moritino. It was a drop knee event at
Hmm.
Antofagasta, and it was a men's world tour event
Oh,
at
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Antofagasta.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The drop knee division that year, that result didn't count towards the title, so it wasn't necessarily a drop knee world tour event, but
Right.
it was on the world stage, and he
Yeah.
won a huge payout for bodyboarding,
Right.
and it's still a very spectacular
Yeah.
feat that he had achieved.
Yeah. And I put up JG says you killed it. So that was his comment there. um, I put up on I also run the history of bodyboarding page, and when you won the Garden Island, I put that up as the header. But when I was taking it down to put this interview up, I looked at the faces, and I know Sammy's a delightful person, and I just amazed at his talent. But he looked disappointed, and you were all like, so what's going on there? Is there like a little rivalry, or are you buddies, or what's going on with you and Sammy?
I really like Sammy a
Yeah,
lot, and definitely wish the best for him. Offer help
of course you do. Yeah,
when I
yeah.
can. But I really feel since he's so much younger than me, he's kind of pitted me as his rival, as the guy to beat, you know? So
Okay.
I think he
Hmm.
looked up to me and maybe still does, but I think he's pitted me as I gotta beat that guy. He's maybe in his mind, maybe he's the best. I gotta beat that guy to be the best. So
Right.
that's where I feel that there is
Yeah, I
probably
get it.
a rivalry there.
Yeah, I get it. I just thought it was interesting because it was two big names in the top two of that big event, and it was like, okay.
It was a really close final. It was a really
Oh,
close
was it?
final.
Hmm.
He was right there, and it coulda went either way, and so
Uh-huh.
I think that's where maybe the facial expression you saw, it's hard
Well, it
to
was just might be me. I mean, I don't even know, but it was just because he had such a high for the last year. I was even telling Tom about him. You know,
yeah.
and I think he was even scheduled to come over to the Jubilee. I'm not sure, and then at the last minute something happened, but I think it was Sammy. But anyway, yeah, he had such a lot of wins there for a while, so that's why I
Oh,
think
yeah.
it could have been very disappointing for him. I guess we should say, you know. Here we got another good question here. Let's answer this before we go to some footage. Uh, Jeremy Harris, how are you? I have a question about boards. You don't ride a Skyfi or quad channel for either prone or DQ. Why is that? Good question.
It is a really good
Mhm.
question, and the Sci-5 Quadcore, that's like a blend of a few attributes that my brother and our other pro rider, Jared Houston, they love. They swear by these boards. This is
Okay.
what they love. They're probably like the main the main market share of like the boards that we sell, as far as they're like our Cadillac of on our catalog there.
Uh-huh.
So it's a great question, Jeremy. And I've tried both, and I'm into both as far as I believe that those features really work. Quadcore, for me, I like a board with a little bit more flex. And for me, I've found that what I can get out of an ISS system as opposed to the Quadcore, for me personally, that works a lot better. I can start with a brand new board and I don't have to break it in, because the Quadcore is pretty stiff, and I like a little bit of flex. Um, and without going into too much more about
Yeah.
why I think the Quadcore is a great board, but the Skyfi channel, that's another characteristic that's really great. But for me, again, I've found that just traditional channels are what work best for my boards, which I'm mainly using, or I mainly want them designed to really work well for drop knee. And so I just haven't found that the Sci-Fi was an improvement on that for drop knee. And so for that reason, I don't incorporate them into my.
That's awesome. Well, that was a great answer, and that I'm sure that Jeremy got, you know, got all that. So what I'm going to do is I just went over real quickly, and I wanted to just, we got to have a little bodyboarding in this interview. So I took a clip of the highlights. You can tell us who it is. You can talk a little bit about the wave. I think that's going to be kind of interesting to
Perfect.
tell us what that wave looked in the stuff that I saw looked pretty doggone amazing, actually. So let's just see if I can get something up here, and we'll share it, and you can talk about it a little bit. And who that is? Do you know who that is?
Category, she was surfing really well. Here's Moz and I before our final in the men's
Oh, okay.
category.
Ooh, I'm glad that just came up. I just randomly picked a clip.
And so this is during the final. It was a 40-minute final. We had nice conditions. It was a little slow. There wasn't a ton of sets, but
Oh, he just bleeped out there for a minute. He's buffering, so he'll come back. But you can see some of the stuff that's happening there. Are you back?
I'm back
Yeah, just a
actually.
little buffering. That's okay.
So Maz was surfing great, and during the bulk of the final, he had control right up until about a minute and a half remaining when I caught this wave that's on screen now, and this was enough to get me into the lead, and there I'm getting cheered up by Tanner.
Oh, good. I picked a good clip. Yay! Look at that. That had to have been a higher than
That
a high.
was that was
Oh,
the moment. Yeah, it was a high of my career for sure.
oh my gosh! Look at that. And I heard the president was there.
President was there for different parts of the event, and
Mm-hmm.
he was very supportive. I mean, it was such an amazing atmosphere, Patty. It was
Oh.
it was like no other event I've been to. The public, whether it was from the president to people off the street just walking by, the
Mm-hmm.
vibe was literally,
Oh.
electric. We like to say that's
Mm.
maybe cliche, but there was so much enthusiasm, and it was a really authentic enthusiasm. Like you
Mm-hmm.
could really feel it when you would
Mm.
interact with people, or when you would just hear the crowd cheering or chanting and the
Just
different carrying ons, and it
ah.
was so cool. It was really
Yeah.
awesome.
Well, let's just take a breath for a moment and think about the 50 years. We just celebrated 50 years this last year, and we a year prior to that, which would have been right in the COVID mess. I called Tom and I said, there's going to be a lot of people coming forward on this 50-year thing, and they're gonna they're gonna ride off of that, and so let's do something. So we decided to do this 50-year boogie thing. So my question to you is, and you got to still be high off of Maldives, knowing that these people were so good. But did you ever, Dave, in your life, think that this little piece of foam and your career and your boards and your brother's boards and traveling and blah blah blah, did you ever think it would be this great? Ever?
No, it continues to blow my mind. I'm so grateful um, to God, but also to the sport of bodyboarding. I think
Mhm.
we're super blessed to be in,
Mm.
a part of this. And it's not just the people at the top or the pros or the industry personnel or there is so many layers of our sport, but when you strip all the accolades away,
Mhm.
when you take away what's ever behind the first name, we're bodyboarders. We love bodyboarding. We're connected as a community, and
Yep.
that's really like part of the underlying thing.
Yeah.
I'm thrilled when I win events
Yeah.
and continue to make a living from this. But it's things like earlier today when I was at the school and somebody came up to me and they were just beaming and telling me
Mm.
about an experience they had bodyboarding and how I could just really feel and see the joy that it had brought them, and just to share that connection.
Mm.
That's the
Yeah,
main part of why I feel that we love bodyboarding.
we do. We do, and it'll never be taken away from us, which is so awesome. And me, even at 76, and looking back on all the, I worked for Maury and I worked for Kransco when when Maury sold out. So I got the privilege of having money to go do the big events because they had money, and then to go travel with BIM and and then the BIA. I mean, my career has really been blessed and like yours in bodyboarding and boogie boarding. So I know exactly what you're saying. It's just it doesn't get any better than this. I think Jeremy had one other thing to say here. Let's see what he has to say up on your comment there, and then I've got one real important question to ask you. And I noticed you wrote. Go ahead and read it if you want. You probably know what he's talking about.
Yeah, I noticed you wrote a ISS bat tail, half bat crescent. Yep. And are you planning to sell that? So this is something else I was approached and got some messages by. This is a custom board that I rode in the
Hmm.
finals.
Hmm.
Um, it's a dovetail. That's what we kind of called it because we cut a crescent out of a bat.
Oh, okay.
So if you look at the bottom of the board, it's a bat tail, but
Hmm.
from the top it looks like a crescent because it has that comfortable scoop at the back.
Oh, okay.
So I ride that for comfort and performance. It achieves
Nice.
both for me. And again, I put the ISS system in it because that's what works with Flex.
Hmm.
And to answer the question is, will we release something like that? I think it would be a good idea because we've been getting a
Hmm.
lot of
Hmm.
response about that. So we potentially could be doing a limited
Hmm.
run of that exact board. I'm not sure how soon that would happen, but thank you for your interest,
Yeah.
Jeremy. And
Yeah.
we'll
That
be
was great. Great question, Jeremy. Thank you for listening. Okay, so the big question is, you've been in it a while. Your dad was, you're just so blessed to have a dad, do what he did to you guys, take you to the ocean and move to Kauai. What a blessing you guys have had. And for me, what a blessing to meet Tom on Kauai. We've got a lot of similarity. Kauai is a special place in my heart, and Marsha's and Tom's and all of us. But looking back, we've seen so much. The Portugal's going off, Argentina's going off, all these people are going off, UK's going off again. What can we do, Dave? Do you think in your mind? Because I'm not going to be alive, but you probably will see the resurgence, the comeback, the whatever it is. What do you think we have to do to get that ball moving? Specifically, what do you think we have to do?
I think we need to just complete the whole cycle here. I think we've been top heavy focused on the pro aspect of the sport, and I think the motivation there was to prove our legitimacy as
Hmm.
real athletes, as a real
Hmm.
sport. So I think the intent is good, and I think
Right.
there is a place for that top end of the sport. But if that's coming at a cost or in place of the beginning stages where there's coaching clinics or small Grom contests. I know in the early days it was the jamborees.
Mhm.
Things like that where you really begin and you plant the seeds, you start at the grassroots, you engage youth. They don't have to always be young, but that is
Mhm.
probably a great place to
Yeah,
start.
because they'll talk to their parents, and their parents will want them to buy a board, and they don't want the one that breaks the first day. They want a real board. That's what I'm saying. That's gonna spur the
And you
business,
and you
you
and
know?
you attach somebody with something they enjoy doing early on, and they can have it for their life. I think, going back to why nobody can take bodyboarding away from us is because
Mhm,
even if we don't do it, we're still connected to the community
mhm.
because we've shared that experience for so long, and we have relationships with other people with the same shared experience. So you start somebody off early, you give them that stoke, you really show them the accessibility and the opportunity that bodyboarding is. And I think the opportunity really is to engage in the ocean. Um, of course, it's exercise, it's camaraderie, community,
Mhm,
but also just that excitement and joy.
mhm,
I
mhm,
could I could put that simple word that means a lot onto there.
mhm.
And
Yep,
if you connect somebody with that early on, I think that is what fuels an industry really. And I
yeah,
think when you leave that behind, you're gonna have gaps in
yeah.
your you're gonna have hiccups and you're gonna get really affected by the world
Mhm,
market. You're gonna get really affected by different things that happen in
mhm,
the global and national economies. But if
mhm.
you can just engage with the next generation, like we said, and share what
Yeah,
we have with people who don't have it yet, but who
mhm.
could have it, then I think that's when we're going to see. And I think we're seeing it in some degrees, like you had mentioned a few places. And I think
Yeah,
just to bring back the Garden Island Boogie Board Classic from when we started it to today,
yeah,
oh, you can see the difference if you go down to the south shore of Kauai.
yep.
So
Well, that's what I wanted to mention was you there's a few people, and I on my hand that I can just count that are doing it, and even though we've never met, this is the first time we've talked, I've seen the Boogie Classic. I've looked at videos of it. I know what it's doing to push the sport. Joey Gregory in California, as I send out kudos to him all the time. He's doing the California bodyboarders boogie camps. That's it. I get real animated about it, and people sometimes, but it's if you say, well, we're doing this, these series of contests, and we're going, we got a junior division, and no, 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 no. Okay, okay. I'm not going to get all fired up about this, but my whole thing was, could I at least just see some kind of resurgence before I go? I would love to see and you're right, it's kind of happening. It's starting to, the sport is good, and that commentary that was out last week, where everybody had their say so in it. And I've been saying it for 15 years. Go back to the Groms. Nobody listens. Now that people are starting to kind of listen. But anyway, um, this can happen. It can happen. People like you, and for those of you who are watching this for the first time, either on YouTube or tonight, Dave is doing it. There's only a few people doing it. Okay. So you can take your right hand and pat your shoulder, because just putting Boogie in the name alone is huge. Tom loved Boogie. You look at any of the videos of him, I love bodyboard. What's bodyboard? What's bodyboard? Who named it bodyboard? There's a Boogie. And
Boogie,
we always talked about Boogie. So let's bring the Boogie back. What do you say?
yeah,
Let's bring it
Boogie for
back.
sure. I love Boogie because to me, again, what I talked about inclusivity of the opportunity about what you can do on a bodyboard.
Hmm.
Boogie really encapsulates it. I think,
It does.
Snake was a fun attempt
Yeah.
to to bring up where we could position ourselves on the craft, but I think Boogie really does do it justice as far as
Yeah.
it's like a dance that we're
It
doing in the
is.
water, and it's like Boogie is not just dancing, it's kind of a vibe too. So
Hmm.
like
Yep.
boogie boarding, like, yeah, that's what we do.
Yep. I love it. I love it. All right, my last question, because normally I go about 30 minutes, but a lot of times I go over, and I don't care because we're getting some good stuff out of you, Dave. My last question is, um, based on your still competing, your business that you have that's booming, and then the boogie thing that we talked about, putting everything together. When you wake up in the morning, where do you see yourself, like in 5 years or in the future? Where do you actually see yourself? What are you doing when you look into the future?
I think I'm doing similar to what I'm doing now. I might be, maybe competing less, maybe
Hmm.
competing more if
Hmm.
there's more opportunities. But I think probably I'm teaching more or coaching more. I'm
Hmm.
probably helping to run more events. I'm probably more engaged in the youth.
Hmm.
Probably. 5 years out, I might have a child or children of my own, so that
Hmm.
could be an element in the equation too, which
Hmm.
still kind of fits in with the next generation. And so
There you
I
go.
think it's pretty similar, but there's definitely going to be some evolution, if you will, and progression, I would hope.
Hmm. Well, I have just had so much joy and had you today. I mean, I think I covered everything. If there's anything you would like to say or that maybe I maybe have missed, I kind of feel like I got a little bit of chance to get to know you. I just love what I'm hearing. Is there anything you might want to shout out or say before we
Well,
say goodbye?
thank you, Patty, because I think the archiving and the continual what you are doing, I think is really important. And I think that's also something as we do move forward, we want to stay focused on the youth, but at the same time, we want to definitely give credit
Oh,
and
yeah.
catalog a history because then that can help to guide the next generation. So I
Yeah.
think um, creating history in a way that we can access it, I think
Hmm.
is very important. And I think it's a resource that I often look to myself if I'm like writing a resume or something. I'm
Hmm.
like, maybe somewhere else on the internet has this information. I might not remember it all. When was
Uh-huh.
the
Oh,
last
yeah.
time this happened? And I
Oh,
think
yeah.
there's things like that that are so important for us to be able to look because if
Yeah.
we're going to tout, oh, that's the first time it happened in history, well,
Yeah.
we should probably be able to prove that with some sort
Hmm.
of
That's right.
catalog. So I
Yeah.
want to give a kudos to you and
Well,
say I
thank you.
appreciate what you do. It's been an honor
Yeah.
to be
Yeah.
a part of it,
Well,
and
it's
it's
been an
awesome.
honor to meet you.
Thank you.
Okay, so don't go away. I'm going to just do a little send off here to everybody. And I thank you so much once again. What an honor for me to be able to talk to somebody tonight that I've had so much respect for over the years. You know, a lot of my interviews, I get a chance to talk to people that I've met and or hung out with over my 47 years in the sport. But tonight was a very special night, and to have him, him and his brother, it's just I would have loved to have them anytime. We're going to get them both together and talk about, the boogie, just the whole boogie thing because they're into it, and I love that. So thank you all so much for joining me. I'm going to put this up on YouTube. It'll go in our archival boogie history series. Over there, you can also see some interviews about talking story about Maury. This was people, legends that came forward to talk about Tom Maury after his passing last year. I also have some last interviews with Tom Maury that I'm putting up. I was very fortunate to get him to record on many special occasions. In fact, a couple days before he passed, I called him and he goes, "Are we ready to record, Patty?" And I said, "Oh no, I can't right now, but I'll call you later." Well, guess what? I didn't call him later, and I'm so but I did get a bunch of good interviews with him. So those are all going to be over on Put Your Body on a Boogie. That was a phrase that we coined a long time ago when we were trying to get people out on boogie boards before they were called bodyboards. So it's the YouTube channel, Put Your Body on a Boogie. And of course, this was recorded live tonight on Put Your Body on a Boogie. And it's all to pay tribute to Tom Maury. So once again, I'm so thankful that Dave was able to come in and join me tonight. And I know you're all just as stoked as I am that he came off of that double win down in Maldives. What an honor. And just had Garden Island DK division the week before he left. My word, what an athlete. So thank you all so much, and we'll see you and talk to you on my next episode.